Is there a history of autism in your family? How does it affect the twins? Do you feel like you are exploiting Miko? Hey you guys, welcome back to The General Life. For those that don't know, my name is Precious and our page is about autism, early intervention, and our journey. Okay, so it is the end of 2023. We have been on YouTube for 1 year now, and I decided to do a Q&A for you guys and for a lot of our newcomers because there's a lot that they don't know. So I asked you guys to comment some questions, some things that you guys wanted to know, and all questions were welcome. So we're going to go through the list and hopefully I'm able to answer the questions for you guys. So here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to read them off of my phone. Okay, so the first question is, as an autistic mom, how do you handle when you get overwhelmed and overstimulated but still need to adult? I think that that is a really good question. Honestly, I just kind of count in my head. I go through a series where to get my thoughts from running so that I can focus on what's at hand, I will count. I count to go to sleep. Numbers are my thing. I kind of just have to put myself in her shoes and kind of think, what would I want? What would I need, for me to calm down, for me to feel safe, and that usually helps me. Second question, I would love to know about how Miko's condition and the way you guys have handled her. How does it affect the twins, if at all? That is a really great question, and it was one of the most liked questions that we got, so it told me that a lot of people really wanted to know. I think that whether or not Miko is autistic or whether or not the twins are autistic or autism was in the picture, I think that having siblings, everybody is affected when there's one adult, that is trying to focus on 2, 3, 4, 5 different individuals. It's going to affect everybody differently. With Matthew and Mackenzie, I constantly have to remind myself and also remind them that Miko just needs a little extra help, and a lot of the times they are very helpful and very understanding in helping with Miko and being really great big brother and big sisters. And for them, I always try to space out time for them. So they're at school most of the time for majority of the day, but they know that there is a time of the day that they can come to me and we have our one-on-one talks, and they seem to really enjoy it. Mackenzie enjoys it a little bit more, but yeah, I think it's just a constant reminder, but I think that that's just something that all siblings are going to go through, and I think it affects them all. Not the same, but it's going to affect them. Precious, how did you feel when you were diagnosed with autism at 29 years old? What compelled you to seek a diagnosis in the first place? Had you suspected that to be the case as a teenager or young adult, and were you taken aback? Thank you. I did not know growing up that I was autistic. I did not know as a teenager, as a young adult. I did not know much about autism. I did work with adult individuals that had autism earlier in my young adulthood when I first started working. I didn't quite understand it. I am naturally a nice person to anybody, and I automatically just feel for everybody's situation. So it was a really great job for me, but I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that it was really hard to get them to understand me, and it was really hard to really explain myself and to really understand what they were saying. But I really love the job. What made me realize that I may be autistic is finding out that Mika was autistic. When that word was brought to our attention, when I started researching what autism was and really kind of like going in depth with what it was and speaking to professionals in the medical field, I realized that a lot of the things that I was seeing in her and a lot of the things that I was reading was also things that I did and things that I felt, and also read that and spoke with professionals that said that typically when a child is autistic, more than likely one or both of the parents could as well be autistic. And so that kind of, kind of spoke to me, and I just knew at that point that I was autistic. How did I feel about it? Honestly, there was something that I read, and there was something that I read. I can't remember what it was that I read, but I remember when I first said, "Oh my God, I'm autistic." And honestly, I started to laugh. Like, I'm laughing, and not like because I think that it's funny, but because I thought like, oh my God, like it was more of like a relief laugh. Like, oh my gosh, this is what's going on. Like, I cannot believe that I'm autistic. About a week later, I remember that I was in the bathroom and it hit me and I started crying. I was just bawling. I was just crying because it just made me feel like, oh my God, if I knew this earlier, my parents knew this earlier, a lot of the things that I struggle with now would not have been a problem. Would not be a problem now, so. Okay, next question. I would like to inquire what made you decide home therapy versus outpatient therapy for Miko to help aid in speech, language, fine motor skill development. Honestly, circumstance. When we first found out about Miko possibly having autism, my husband was in the military, and we were living on base. And so when you're in the military, you can only go and see specific doctors. And we had started the process with them in the military. And my husband just happened to be at the end of his term. And so he got out of the military. And so then our insurance stopped. And we couldn't go back on base to go see those doctors. So then I had to start the process over again. And with trying to like figure out civilian life after the military, after COVID, after all of that, it was really hard for us, really stressful for us. We didn't know much about the surrounding areas. We were not from Texas, so everything we did was on base. And so now we had to figure out life outside of base and what was around, what's the doctors, and like all of that. And in the meantime of like trying to get the diagnosis, it was an extremely long wait time. And so it's like, all right, I'm not going to wait. I have to do something. And so once we started doing that, it kind of went from there. Will we ever like let her go into clinical therapy? Absolutely. We do think that it's very beneficial. We absolutely would love that. Not for everything, but definitely to start her off, because we don't want her to be overwhelmed or overstimulated. So we do want to, for sure, get her in speech and physical therapy. But yeah, absolutely. We're not against it. It's just what's working for us right now. Okay, next question. Is there a history of autism in your family? How long have you known you had autism? What kind of issues did you personally have that made you realize there may be something wrong? So right now it's been a year since I've known that I've had autism. And like I said, it's not so much of like the issues that I have now, because I'm well into who I am now. So I've figured out a way to handle my life at 30 years, but the issues that I had growing up that were signs of autism, noise sensitivity. I've always had issues with my ears. I get like those marching, like it feels like there's a marching band in my ears. Close sensitivity, sensitivity to texture. I've had these like my entire life. Socializing with other people, I was always very, very to myself, very quiet. It's a lot of things that, that growing up that I just realized I realize now that those were signs of autism. I was also an early reader, and I also learned things very fast. So I did graduate a whole year early. Back in my elementary days, my mom put me into this special program where I ended up testing out of one of my grades, and they pushed me up. So I've never really been around anybody that was my age in school. So socializing, I was always younger than everybody else, and it was really, really hard to understand people that were older than me and not really be around people that were my age. So, but also, I just didn't know that it was autism, and neither did my parents. It's as far as my understanding, they didn't know. I can't ask my dad. My dad passed away a few years ago, and I don't have the best relationship with my mom, but I don't think she knew. As a Black person myself, I know that there is a little stigma on disability in the Black community. If comfortable sharing, what was your family's reaction when you were first diagnosed? No one in my family has said anything to me. Again, I do not live by my family. I'm about 1,200 miles away from them, and have been 1,200 miles away from them for like the past 4 or 5 years. So I'm not very close with them. I talked to my aunt. My aunt is the one who pretty much raised me and my sisters. So I think she's always known. She's always been like this gentle person. She's always been like somebody that kind of catered to your needs based on who you were. She was very comforting as a child for me when I was a child. So I think that she's always known. She was one of the first people to suspect that Miko could be autistic. So I think she probably suspected it when I was younger, but I don't think she may have suspected autism. I think that I don't know if it was a big word back then. I think that she just knew something was different with me. So, okay, so I want to know, what was the biggest obstacle with parenting a child with Miko's level of autism? Before you managed to gain a routine, what was the hardest part? Honestly, Miko was very, very easy. Very easy. We didn't start seeing a lot of these issues with Miko until she turned 3, which was this past July. So prior to her turning 3, the only big issue that we had, or concern that we had, was the fact that she was not talking. As far as like understanding us or following commands, we didn't expect her to know what we were saying. She was just too little at that time. We had no expectation of it, but I think the talking was just about the only thing that really concerned us. And she was really good at like kind of sticking to a schedule that we had her on. And we've just always had her on a schedule since she was born. She's always taken her naps on at the same time. She's always eaten at the same time. She's always went to bed at the same time. We've always done the same thing with her. So we didn't really have anything like prior to her turning 3. Now that she's 3, we are still like in the stages of still trying to get a routine. So this is the time that we're struggling, but if we do come up with or have some success in some of the things that we're doing, you guys will be the first to know. Okay, what advice would you give a parent that's been in denial about their child? I honestly don't think that there is much that you can tell a parent that is in denial, because I think that they do see the signs. I think that they do see that there is something different. I think that when you start to do the research and you start to read about whatever problem or whatever thing that your child is going through, I think it's just a lot to handle. I think that there is so much information out there with things that you just don't know where to start. I would encourage them to have open communication with their child, to at least research the information, to at least talk to someone that they feel comfortable talking with, because this journey is just as important for the parent as it is for the kid. Do I think Miko will ever speak normally? I think that a lot of the misconception about autism is that people think that you can magically get rid of it, and so I think a lot of people have a lot of hope for Miko, and as do we have a lot of hope for her. But I mean, I don't even think that decision is up to Miko. I think if Miko could talk, I think that she would. I think that if Miko could say things, then she would. I think the problem is that she doesn't know how. And honestly, if we could get her into speech therapy, I would honestly be so surprised if somebody could get her to talk. It's not that I don't think that she ever will, it's that I think it's going to be a very, very, very hard journey for her. If she does learn to talk, absolutely happy, have no issue with that. I would love for her to talk. If she does not, I absolutely have no problem with that. I would love for her to just learn how to communicate her needs and her wants, however way that she can. That is a healthy way to do so. I know that Miko is autistic, but has there ever been a time where she had a major outburst, like throwing things or hitting people, yelling and screaming? Not very many, and I can't remember what we were doing, but she did go through a phase of like 2 weeks where she was hitting her brother and sister. I have no idea why, but she thought it was funny. She wasn't doing it like in a malicious way. She just thought it was really funny to hit them, and I think she loved what they said after, the ow. I think that she thought that was funny. But as far as like screaming and stuff, we did go through a few weeks of her like screaming and shouting and pulling away and like outbursts, like when we were trying to get her to go to sleep. But again, we found out that she was having some issues with the noise of the military sounds of their training, and it was really sensitive to her ears. So she was scared, she was terrified. She's also been having some nightmares, so a lot of the things also were because of that. I think at any time when your kid is doing that there is usually a deeper issue, something like that. So do you ever regret listening to the doctors that told you Miko was autistic? I already knew that she was autistic when I took her to the doctor. I had already done my research. I have no reason to regret finding out how to help my child. I don't think that that's anything that I will ever regret, even if it was never a name for it. If there were ways out here that can help her, that can help her grow and help her development, I have no regret for that. It doesn't matter who told me. When the facts are the facts, I don't care who told me. So no, I do not regret I do not regret it. Do you feel like you are exploiting Miko? I think that this is probably not the most asked question, but I think people are curious to see if I'd answered it, because there have been comments on our videos where people are asking, or they're saying, you know, oh, I feel like you're exploiting Miko. And I think that there are people that feel this way about any parent that is showing their child on the internet, whether it be a picture, whether it be awareness. I honestly do not think it matters what it is. I think that there are some people out there that feel like if you post your child, you are exploiting them. And I don't even think that it matters if you're getting paid or not getting paid. I feel like they think that that's exploitation. I also want to point out that I don't think that people are actually using the word exploitation properly. I think that people correlate it with just saying, well, if you post your kid online for money, then it's exploitation. But they're also forgetting what exploitation means. The fact that Miko is not being harmed, she is getting the care that she needs outside of posting online. Our videos are to spread awareness about autism, and we are not a family page. We are not a page where you're going to see us just doing videos about anything. Our page is just really strictly about autism. I feel like there's like really no real answer for that, because people are going to feel and think how they are going to. I think that people just have to be mindful of, hi. I think people just have to be mindful of what information they're putting out for their kids, because there are those out there that are really exploiting their kids, and not just on YouTube, but in movies, on commercials, in other ways that people aren't even really thinking about. But whether or not they feel the way that they feel, I still feel like I'm helping people, and that is my intent, is to help people. Just woke up from a nap. Do you wonder about the future for your family and what her future might look like? Absolutely. And I think that every parent does, whether their kid is neurotypical or autistic or any other disability or anything else. I think that that's across the board. We don't know what it'll look like. We are pretty much just managing the day. We are winging it, and I think a lot of parents are. I do think that there are things that you can set up in place for your child. Making sure they have insurance, trust funds, college funds. I think there's lots of things that you guys can do, if they have somewhere to go, if something happens with, to the parents, who's going to take care of them, where are they going to live. I think that should always be the goal to have, no matter what your circumstances are. So that was a really good question. We did also do a video about that, and I'll link that above, to go more in depth about that too. Okay, somebody would like to know if we have ever gotten bullied for being autistic. I have gotten bullied before growing up. Was it because of me being autistic? No, because I had no clue. I think that people bullied me because of my differences. I don't think that they knew or understood why they were bullying me. I think that I was just different than other people. And so kids are gonna bully because they don't like themselves, because they have issues at home. There's lots of and tons of reasons why somebody's going to bully somebody. If you are being bullied, I am so sorry that you are going through that. I would say that you should speak to somebody, whoever you feel like you are comfortable with, and try and be very open with your parents. I hope your parents are going to be very open to you. Matthew gets bullied a lot at school, and a lot of the times I am trying to push him to overcome it, and I'm pushing him to, stand up for himself. But there are times also where I'm like, no, you know what, I'm gonna say something. I'm going to remove him from the situation. Like these past 2 weeks before winter break, he didn't want to ride the bus because people were talking about him out loud and being very mean to him. And this is their first year riding the bus, so. But yeah, so I didn't allow him to get on the bus. I let him, I took him to school because some things I want to be on his side, and I want him to feel comfortable enough to come and talk to me and tell me and know that I'm going to help him. So, yeah, but I hope this answers most of you guys' questions, and definitely feel free to keep asking questions. You can always email me. I want to thank you guys for a wonderful first year on YouTube. It has been amazing. You guys have taught us a lot, as well as I'm glad that we were able to teach you guys a lot too. And yeah, so with that being said, welcome 2024.